going to cover memory today. It's pretty interesting, and we have lots of practical tips to go over as well. So we will talk about different types of information and memory today. So attention really just refers to the processes that we use to monitor the events in our environment. And so like we talked about last week, we talked about sensory, and we will cover that in detail with regards to memory today. So memory is really our ability to encode information to be able to recall it at a later time. When we talk about the information processing model, we talk about that in three different steps or stores or types. And so sensory memory, again, is where we scan that environment continuously. We're taking in new information. We delete information at the conscious level that isn't useful to us. However, if I ask you what you had for dinner on September 2nd of 2010, chances are you wouldn't be able to tell me at a conscious level unless it was some specific special day for you. However, at an unconscious level or a subconscious level, all that information is available, but we don't have the ability to recall it. So things like hypnosis help people recall that information at a subconscious level. Now you have to be susceptible to hypnosis. It isn't something that all people feel comfortable being in that very relaxed state, and so you have to be able to get to that relaxed state first. But if you are, you can recall all the information that occurred on that specific day or any specific day, which is interesting. And this also connects into memory with emotions. And so sometimes people will act or respond in a way that they don't necessarily understand why they reacted that way, and it's because the situation they were in somehow connected emotionally with a subconscious event or situation, and that impacted how they responded. And people just don't always make those connections on a conscious level, but they do impact behavior, they do impact your thoughts. And that doesn't discount people's responses, because people are responsible, of course, for their actions. However, there are reasons why people engage the way they do, and if we know those things, then we can change them if they're not productive. And so remember, you have that sensory memory, you're constantly scanning your environment, taking in information all the time. If information is important enough to remember, it's going to move on from your sensory memory to your short-term memory. And short-term memory is really limited in both capacity and duration. And so they did this test. It was called the Brown-Peterson test. And what they did is they presented 3 letters to the participant, and then they immediately gave them a 3-digit number, and they had to subtract 3 from that 3-digit number. And so the 3 letters could be RLP and then 298. And so they have to subtract 3 from that 298. And they did a test to see how long people could remember those 3 letters they were given. And so there was a significant drop-off after 20 seconds. People have a short-term memory, they can really remember information for about 20 seconds. We can actually begin to hold information a little bit longer if we chunk it together. So people have that magic number, which is 7 plus or minus 2. And so that 7 bits of information people can pretty easily remember. And this was the basis for our phone numbers in the beginning, was that people could remember 7 digits fairly easily. Now, some of us have to remember more, 10, because we live in bigger cities. But if you don't need that area code, those 7 digits are pretty easy to remember. And so we can also chunk information together. So if I give you this very long number that's on the screen and ask you to remember it, it's very daunting. That would be a challenging task to remember that. However, if we chunk it up into what looks like years, that is more information that we can hold in our short-term memory because it makes sense. It's in a way that we can comprehend it, so we can make sense of it, and we can hold it in our short-term memory for a little bit longer. So we have capacity to expand that short-term memory a little bit by using things